My fiancé demanded I transfer my $2.4 million estate, my company's shares, and my investment portfolio into his name, or cancel our Santorini wedding. I said I'd think about it. The next day, I rerouted our $95,000 wedding into a retreat for 47 women entrepreneurs. He found out when they arrived at the villa, and security handed him an eviction notice while I watched from the infinity pool with a glass of wine. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're a subscriber, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. But let me back up, because understanding how I got to that moment requires understanding who I was before Daniel Vance walked into my life and mistook my success for an all-you-can-eat buffet. My name is Marlo Ashford. I'm 34 years old, and I'm the founder and CEO of Ashford & Company, a luxury sustainable furniture company based in Seattle. We make high-end pieces from reclaimed wood, the kind that shows up in Architectural Digest and celebrity homes. Last year, we did $8.3 million in revenue, and my 38% equity stake is worth approximately $4.6 million. The beachfront estate Daniel wanted? I bought that property on Bainbridge Island when I was 28. A 3-bedroom mid-century modern with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. Paid $1.1 million with money I'd saved from 5 years of living in a 400-square-foot studio above a Vietnamese restaurant. The smell of pho became so ingrained in my clothes that people thought I worked there. That house is now worth $2.4 million. Every mortgage payment I made alone. Every renovation I planned myself. Every piece of furniture inside it, I designed and built with my own hands. The investment portfolio he wanted access to? $780,000 in diversified assets that I'd been building since I was 22. Every bonus, every profit distribution, every tax refund went straight into that account. I lived like a college student well into my 30s while my friends took European vacations and bought new cars. And the Porsche. The 1973 Porsche 911 he casually mentioned should have both our names for insurance purposes. I found that car rusting in a barn outside Spokane, paid $40,000 for it, spent 2 years restoring it myself. Now worth $140,000, and every bolt tells a story about patience. I learned about protecting what you build from my grandmother, Celestine Ashford. She raised me after my parents died when I was 9. Celestine was a furniture craftsman back when people assumed only men did it well. She taught me how to see grain in wood, how to work with materials' natural strengths, how to build things that outlast us. But the most important lesson came the day I left for college. We were in her workshop, and she ran her hand across a black walnut dining table she'd spent months perfecting. Marlo, baby, listen carefully. When you build something with your own hands, furniture, a business, a life, you protect it. Not because you don't trust people, but because you respect your work too much to hand it over to someone who didn't help build it. Don't ever let anyone make you feel selfish for protecting what you created. And don't ever give someone the keys to something they didn't help build, no matter how much they say they love you. She was talking about my grandfather. He'd left when my mother was 12, and Celestine discovered he'd been taking loans using her workshop as collateral. She nearly lost everything. Spent years in legal battles just to keep her tools and workspace. So when I started Ashford & Company at 26, I did it smart. Bootstrapped with $30,000 saved from my corporate job as a product designer. No investors, no partners, no one's name on anything but mine. I worked 90-hour weeks for 3 years. Designed during the day, built prototypes at night, handled sales on weekends. My first break came when an interior designer ordered a custom dining table for a Madison Park renovation. The client posted Instagram photos, and suddenly I had a wait list. Within a year, I'd quit corporate and was running Ashford & Company full-time. By 28, I bought the Bainbridge house. By 32, we had 23 employees, a showroom, and major West Coast contracts. But I was lonely in a way I didn't talk about. Not even with my best friend, Sutton Graves, who I'd met at UW. She'd gone into yacht design, traveled constantly between Seattle and Monaco. She had the glamorous life. I had the successful business, the beautiful house, the financial security. But I came home every night to silence. My friends were married, posting couple photos and anniversary dinners. I had assets and respect and independence, but no one to share it with. That's exactly where I was when I met Daniel Vance 18 months ago at a Seattle Art Museum fundraiser. Daniel was 36, charming, working in what he called venture capital consulting, connecting startups with investors, taking commission when deals closed. Except the deals rarely closed. Those first months felt effortless. He'd bring coffee during late workshop nights. Listen when I talked about difficult clients. He seemed genuinely impressed by what I'd built, by the fact that I owned property at 28. He made me feel like someone finally saw the work behind the success. Sutton was skeptical immediately. She'd pull me aside at brunch. There's something off about how he talks about your success. It's always about what you have, never who you are. But I was tired of being alone. Tired of being the only single founder at events. Tired of that beautiful, empty house where every sunset felt wasted. So I ignored the warning signs. They started small. Daniel moved into my place 10 months into dating. His lease was ending, we were together every night anyway, so why not? He started contributing $2,200 monthly for utilities and groceries. Seemed fair since I owned the house outright. But things shifted within weeks. My minimalist aesthetic became cold and uninviting. He brought home furniture without asking. A massive leather sectional blocking my water view. A glass coffee table that clashed with everything. When I suggested discussing major purchases first, he said I was being controlling about our space. Not my space. Our space. Even though every square foot was legally mine. Then came comments about my work schedule. How I spent too much time at the workshop. How his friend's girlfriend was a yoga instructor with better work-life balance. How maybe I should hire a CEO and step back so we could actually enjoy life. Each comment felt small alone. Together, they formed a pattern. A systematic attempt to make me feel guilty for the very things that made me successful. 8 months ago, I proposed to him. Yes, I got down on one knee at Canlis and presented a ring that cost 3 months of salary. A platinum band with a black diamond because traditional diamonds were too conventional for his aesthetic. He cried, said yes, immediately started posting photos with captions about leveling up and joining the Ashford legacy and building an empire together. Not building a life. Building an empire. That should have registered as strange. Daniel had always wanted a destination wedding. Somewhere dramatic, photogenic, unforgettable for his friends. So I planned Santorini. We'd rent Azure Haven, an entire luxury villa compound perched on OIA's cliffs with caldera views. Venue, $45,000 for the week. Photographer, $12,000. Florist flying from Athens, $8,500. Private chef and catering for $18,000. String quartet, $6,000. International wedding planner, $5,500. My portion climbed to $95,000. Daniel would mention costs, talk about how expensive everything was, but never offered to split equally. He'd say, "You're better at managing finances anyway," or "I'm saving for the honeymoon surprise." The honeymoon surprise was a 2-week Bali trip he expected me to fund while he took credit for planning. Sutton's skepticism intensified. She'd watch him at parties, notice how conversations circled back to my assets rather than my work. How he'd mention our beachfront property and our company when legally everything was mine. "He doesn't love you," Sutton said one wine-heavy night. "He loves what you've built. There's a difference." I didn't want to hear it. I was 3 months from not being alone anymore. Except Daniel wasn't interested in building anything. He wanted possession of what already existed. 2 months before Santorini, he started comments about asset protection. How married couples usually had everything in both names. How strange that I kept things separate. How his parents shared everything equally, that's what real partnership looked like. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I'm not asking you to give me anything. I'm asking you to share your life completely. Isn't that what marriage means? When I suggested a prenup, Daniel's reaction was immediate. His face went red. His voice tight. A prenup? You're treating our marriage like a business transaction. Like I'm some threat to your precious empire. It's about protecting what we each bring separately while building something new together. No. It's about control. You want a marriage where you have all the power and I'm just an accessory to your success. He didn't speak to me for 3 days. Stayed at his friend's place, sent long texts about how hurt he was, how he thought I was different from other successful women who let money make them cold. I apologized. Actually apologized for suggesting basic protection. That should have been my exit. But I was too invested. Too afraid of being alone again. Then came the ultimatum that changed everything. 3 months before Santorini, Daniel walked into my home office where I was reviewing production schedules. He sat across from my desk, the desk I'd designed and built from reclaimed Douglas fir, and delivered his demand with lunch-ordering casualness. We need to talk about the asset situation before the wedding. I looked up. What asset situation? Everything being in just your name. It's creating imbalance. I need that fixed before we get married. Something cold settled in my chest. What exactly are you asking for? I want my name on the Bainbridge property. Joint ownership. I want access to your investment portfolio as co-owner. And I want shares in Ashford and Company transferred to me. 20% would be fair. I stared. 20% of my company. Our company, once we're married. I'm not asking for something unreasonable, Marlo. I'm asking for what any spouse would expect. Partnership. Equality. Proof you see me as your equal, not just some guy living in your house. Daniel, those assets represent 12 years of work. I built all of that before we met. His expression hardened. And there it is. I built this speech. You know what that tells me? You don't actually want a marriage. You want a prenup relationship where you control everything and I'm grateful to be included. That's not what I'm saying. Then prove it. Transfer the assets. Show me you trust me and want real partnership, not this transactional arrangement where you hold all the power. My heart was pounding. Let me think about it. He stood, and I saw something new in his eyes. Cold. Calculated. Don't take too long. We have vendor deadlines, and I'm not marrying someone who treats me like a liability. Either we do this as equals, or the wedding is off. He walked out. I sat there staring at empty space, feeling the weight of what just happened. This wasn't a request. It was an ultimatum. Transfer everything I'd built, or lose the relationship. I called Sutton immediately. What's wrong? She answered on the second ring. You sound weird. I told her everything. The demand. The ultimatum. The timeline. How he'd made it sound reasonable while asking for millions. Marlo. That's not partnership. That's financial manipulation. He's using your love and your fear of being alone to extort you. He said it's about trust. It's about control. You need to talk to a lawyer. Today. I can't just call a lawyer about my fiancé. Yes, you absolutely can. My sister went through this. Her ex wanted his name on her condo to prove trust. She did it. 2 years later during divorce, she had to buy him out of assets he never contributed to. He walked away with $125,000 of her equity. I felt sick. What should I do? Call a lawyer who specializes in asset protection. Don't tell Daniel. And watch his reaction carefully. If he escalates pressure or makes you feel guilty, that's your answer. Monday morning at 9, I called Kendrick Thorne, a family law attorney I'd met through business circles. He was 58, brilliant, direct. "Marlo, this is unexpected," he said. "What can I do for you?" I explained everything. The ultimatum. The specific assets. The 3-month timeline. How he'd framed my hesitation as character failure. The silence lasted so long I thought the call dropped. "Kendrick? I'm here." "Marlo, I've practiced family law for 30 years. I've seen this exact scenario too many times. It never ends well for the person with assets." "What does that mean legally?" "If you transfer before marriage, you're making gifts with zero protection. You break up, you can't get them back. After marriage in Washington, it depends, but adding his name coming less everything. In divorce, he'd have strong claims to at least half of whatever has his name on it." My attorney brain engaged. "And the timing?" "The timing is the biggest red flag. An ultimatum 3 months before the wedding, after you've paid deposits and made commitments? That's not love, Marlo. That's leverage. He knows you're emotionally and financially invested. He's using that to pressure you into decisions you'd never make otherwise." The words hit like a blow. "What should I do?" "Tell him you want to consult a financial planner first. Frame it as due diligence. Watch his reaction carefully. If he's a legitimate partner, he'll understand professional guidance. If not, he'll escalate and make you feel guilty for being cautious." We talked another 20 minutes. Kendrick asked detailed questions about Daniel's finances, contributions, work history, income. With each answer, concern grew in his voice. "One more thing. Document everything from now on. Save texts, emails, record conversation dates and times. If this goes sideways, you'll need proof of what actually happened versus what he might claim." Wednesday evening, I tested Kendrick's advice. Daniel and I had Thai takeout at my dining table, the black walnut table I'd built 3 years ago. "I've been thinking about what you said. About the asset transfers." Daniel looked up, guarded. "And? I want to talk to a financial planner first. Make sure we're structuring everything properly. Tax implications with company shares, legal considerations with property titles. These are major decisions. I want to do them right for both of us." His face changed. Guardedness shifted to something harder. Colder. "A financial planner?" "Yes. Someone who can advise us." "You're overthinking this, Marlo. This isn't complicated. You put my name on things. That's it. That's what people who love each other do. I'm being careful with major assets. That's not overthinking. That's responsible. People who trust each other don't need financial planners to prove commitment." He put his fork down hard. "This is exactly what I worried about. You're treating our marriage like a business acquisition. Running analyses on whether your fiancé deserves basic respect. That's not what I'm doing." "Then what are you doing?" "Because you're making excuses. Finding reasons to keep control while pretending to consider partnership." "Daniel, I'm asking for one professional conversation before decisions affecting millions." He stood abruptly, chair scraping. "You know what this tells me? You don't want to marry me. You want a prenup, a financial planner, probably separate accounts forever. That's not marriage, Marlo. That's a business arrangement where you keep all power and I'm just an accessory to your success. That's not fair. You built this fortress of assets and you don't actually want to let anyone in. You want control, not an equal. Someone grateful for whatever scraps you're willing to share." He grabbed his keys. "I'm staying at Casper's for a few days. Maybe you'll figure out what you want. Because right now, it's clear you want a wedding more than a marriage." Casper was his college roommate. Someone I'd met a handful of times who always seemed between jobs. The door closed. Not quite a slam, but close. I sat there long after he left, food getting cold, cycling through everything he'd said. How he'd twisted my reasonable request into character assassination. Made me feel guilty for protecting what I'd built before he existed. How quickly he'd escalated from conversation to abandonment. My phone buzzed. Staying at Casper's tonight. Need space to think about whether we're ready for this. Then another. It hurts that you don't trust me enough to build real partnership. And another. I thought you were different. Guess I was wrong. Each message crafted to make me feel guilty. To make me question myself. To soften me up for when he returned. I turned off my phone and poured wine. Sat in my living room with my furniture in my house, and let myself feel what I'd been avoiding. This wasn't right. None of this was right. And something was about to happen that would prove exactly how wrong I'd been about Daniel Vance. Daniel stayed at Casper's 3 nights. 3 nights of guilt-tripping texts. I didn't respond. Instead, I worked late, took extra assignments, stayed busy enough not to second-guess myself. Friday evening, I came home exhausted from brutal client negotiations. My head throbbed from 8 hours of explaining why quality craftsmanship costs what it costs. All I wanted was wine, silence, maybe a bath overlooking the water. Instead, I walked in and found Daniel sprawled on my couch with Casper. Basketball blaring at headache volume. Empty bottles accumulating on my coffee table, leaving rings on what I'd maintained for 6 years. Daniel didn't look up. We're planning bachelor party details. Casper found a place in Cabo. Private villa, bottle service. It's going to be legendary. I stood there, briefcase in hand, wrinkled work clothes, waiting for something. An apology. An explanation. Something. Nothing came. I'm getting wine, I said to no one. I headed toward the kitchen. The open floor plan I'd loved, living room flowing into kitchen with the long granite island between, was about to become the design choice that changed everything. Because that's when I heard Casper's voice carrying clearly. Have you told her about the Cabo budget yet? That's going to be expensive as hell. I froze just inside the kitchen, hidden by the island. Wine glass in hand. Completely still. Daniel's laugh came next. Not the soft, self-deprecating laugh he used with me. This was different. Darker. Calculating. Not yet. She'll cover it. She always does. My hand tightened on the glass. Dude, you've got her trained, Casper said with admiration. My girlfriend would murder me if I pulled that. That's because your girlfriend doesn't have a paid-off beachfront estate and almost $5 million in company equity. Marlo's good for it. She works constantly anyway. Might as well benefit. The glass felt impossibly heavy. I set it down silently on the counter. My attorney brain kicked in, the part that knew evidence when I heard it. Casper's voice dropped conspiratorially. And the asset transfer thing? Bro, that's genius. Once your name's on that house and those shares, you've got real security. Even if things go sideways, you walk away with something substantial. I know. Daniel sounded pleased. My uncle actually suggested it. Everything went cold. Your uncle told you to do this? Yeah. Uncle Thaddeus went through a nasty divorce in his 40s. His ex-wife's name wasn't on anything. He got some alimony, but that's it. Walked away broke, starting from scratch at 48. He told me, never marry someone with significant assets without protecting yourself first. If she turns out difficult or controlling, you're not starting from zero. Just smart planning. I heard bottles clink, toasting to something. Then Daniel added the part that made my blood ice. Plus, once I have access to her investment portfolio, I can finally launch that cryptocurrency venture fund I've been planning. She won't even notice if I move $200,000 into initial investment. By the time we're married and she figures it out, it'll have tripled, hopefully more. I'll be the one with real money. She'll probably be proud I took initiative. Casper laughed loud and genuine. That's cold, man. But I respect the hustle. You're right, she works 70 hours a week. Probably won't notice money's gone until you've made it back. That's the plan. She's so busy with furniture cases, she barely looks at personal accounts. I've watched her. She checks her portfolio maybe once every few months. By the time she realizes $200,000 is missing, I'll explain it as investment in our future. I stood in my kitchen in my house, listening to my fiancé and his friend plot my financial destruction with vacation planning casualness. They kept talking about Cabo, about expensive bottle service, about suites versus regular rooms. But I'd stopped listening to words. I was processing what I'd heard. Daniel hadn't just asked for transfers on a whim. His uncle had coached him. Given him strategy based on divorce experience. This was premeditated. Calculated. A plan forming since before he moved in. And the cryptocurrency scheme. He'd already decided to steal $200,000 from my savings. Not borrow. Not ask. Steal. He'd been watching my banking habits, timing his access request for when he could drain accounts without detection. The word difficult echoed. His uncle had warned he might turn out difficult or controlling, which apparently meant objecting to financial exploitation. I forced myself to move. Walked back through the living room like I'd heard nothing. Both looked up briefly, then returned to Vegas hotels. Daniel gave me a smile that would have seemed warm if I hadn't just heard everything. Long day? Almost concerned. Brutal. I managed. I'm taking a shower. I went to my bedroom and closed the door. Sat on my bed feeling like someone had handed me architectural plans for my own destruction. He'd drawn it all out. Asset transfer to secure position. Savings drain for crypto dreams. The entire blueprint of how Daniel Vance planned to dismantle everything Marlo Ashford had built. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd planned this while living with a business owner who'd spent 12 years learning to protect assets, identify fraud, document evidence. Who understood exactly how to build a case. I walked into my bathroom, turned the shower scalding hot, let water run over me until my skin turned red. Let it burn away doubt, the final threads of hope that maybe I'd misunderstood. There was no other explanation. Only truth I'd overheard in my own living room. Daniel wasn't building a life with me. He was systematically planning to strip everything I'd worked for. First the transfer, getting his name on property he'd never contributed to. Then the drain, $200,000 stolen for crypto gambling. His uncle had coached him on exploiting someone who'd worked hard and built something real. Given him the playbook for financial abuse disguised as partnership. And Daniel had decided I was too busy, too distracted to notice money disappearing. That I was an easy mark. I turned off the shower and wrapped in a towel. The woman in the mirror was someone I recognized. Not the version doubting herself. Not the version feeling guilty for protection. But the version who'd worked 90-hour weeks and sacrificed everything to build something that mattered. That woman knew exactly what to do. If Daniel wanted strategic games with my life's work, I'd play too. But this game would have rules he didn't know existed. This game would have only one winner. I got dressed, dried my hair, started making calls. First to Kendrick Thorne, leaving urgent voicemail. Then to my property manager about lock codes. Then to Sutton, just 3 words, "You were right." She called back within seconds. What happened? I told her everything. The overheard conversation. Uncle's coaching. Crypto scheme. The casual way they discussed stealing from me like legitimate business. Oh my God, Marlo. You need to protect everything. Right now. I know. I'm already making calls. Do you want me to come over? No. Daniel and Casper are still here. I need to act normal until everything's locked down. But Sutton, I need you for something else. Anything. That Santorini villa. Azure Haven. The $45,000 we paid. I need help repurposing it. Pause. Repurpose how? I have an idea. But I need to talk to the wedding planner first. Can you be available tomorrow? Marlo, what are you planning? Something that turns this nightmare into something good. Something Daniel will never see coming. By the time I walked out, composed and calm, I'd already started my counterattack. Daniel looked up from the couch, beer in hand, oblivious. Feeling better? Much better, I said. And meant it. Daniel and Casper left around midnight, loud and drunk, stumbling to their Uber. After they left, I stood in my living room looking at bottles, rings on my table, the mess. Then I cleaned it all. Methodically. Completely. Wiped every surface, threw away bottles, treated with stains, restored my home to exactly how it had been. It felt symbolic. Taking back my space. Erasing their presence. Saturday morning, I was up at 6. Kendrick on the phone by 8. I overheard something last night, I said without preamble. Daniel and Casper. They were in my living room planning his bachelor party. I heard everything from the kitchen. I told him word for word. Cabo expenses Daniel expected me to cover. Asset transfer being his uncle's idea from divorce experience. Crypto scheme, $200,000 he planned to steal the moment he had access. The silence lasted forever. Kendrick? I'm here. Marlo, you need to protect everything. Today. Not Monday. Today. What do I need? Change every password on every account. Banks, investments, business accounts, everything. Change security questions. If he has visibility into any accounts, remove access immediately. Then change all smart lock codes. Every entrance. Set up alerts for when doors open. Documentation. Write everything you remember from that conversation while fresh. Exact quotes if possible. Note time, location, who was present. Create spreadsheets of what you own before Daniel versus purchase together. Take photographs of every room showing your property. Back everything to encrypted cloud, send copies to me and someone you trust. Sutton. Perfect. Do this today. If this escalates to legal action, and I think it will, you'll need proof this was calculated fraud, not relationship dispute. By 9, I was changing passwords. Bank first. Investment portfolio. Business banking. Credit cards. Retirement accounts. Insurance portals. For each, I updated security questions to answers Daniel would never guess. Creating layers of security requiring a determined hacker. At 10, I called Isla Monroe, property management for my house. Marlo, good morning. I need to change all smart lock codes. Today if possible. Pause. Is everything okay? I'm ending my engagement. My fiancé has current codes. I need them stopped immediately. Her voice softened. I completely understand. With your system, I can do this remotely. New codes active within the hour, sent to your email. Would you like door opening alerts? Yes, please. I'll configure that now. After hanging up, I opened a new spreadsheet. One column for items owned before Daniel. Another for joint purchases. Bainbridge House, 100% mine. Purchased 6 years ago, $1.1 million. Current value $2.4 million. Porsche 911, 100% mine. Purchased 4 years ago, $40,000, restored over 2 years. Current value $140,000. Ashford and Company shares, 100% mine. 38% equity in company valued at $12 million. Investment portfolio, 100% mine. Current value $780,000, 12 years accumulated. Furniture, 98% mine. Every major piece either purchased before Daniel or designed and built by me. Joint purchases, espresso machine, $800. All-clad cookware, $600. Sound system, $1,200. West Elm decorations, $400. Total joint, $3,000 out of $2.8 million in assets. Second spreadsheet tracking Daniel's contributions. $2,200 monthly for 10 months, $22,000 total. Utilities, groceries. Nothing toward taxes, insurance, actual ownership. Then room by room with my phone, photographing everything. Every angle. Furniture, art, views, appliances, custom built-ins, flooring, fixtures. Visual record of what existed before removing Daniel. I encrypted everything, uploaded to secure cloud. Sent copies to Kendrick and Sutton. Subject, documentation. Sutton called immediately. What am I looking at? Evidence. In case Daniel claims he contributed to my assets or has rights to anything. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. Good. He deserves everything coming. Her voice was fierce. What else can I help with? Remember my idea about repurposing Santorini? Yes. I took a breath. There's a nonprofit called Women Building Futures. They provide resources for women entrepreneurs, especially in male-dominated industries. I want to transform our wedding week into a retreat for their members. Use the villa, catering, photographer, everything. Turn what was supposed to be Daniel's show into something that empowers women. Sutton was quiet. Marlo, that's brilliant. But expensive. You've already paid $95,000. Deposits are gone either way. But I can redirect it. Instead of canceling and losing everything, repurpose it. The villa, food, activities. All expenses paid retreat for women building businesses in industries that don't want them. Women like me, like Grandma Celestine, like everyone told they don't belong. That'll cost more than the wedding. I don't care. Daniel was going to use my money for crypto gambling. This feels infinitely better. When? Now. Today. Before I change my mind. Sunday afternoon, I had a video call with Nicolette Rousseau, our wedding planner. French, Athens-based, specializing in luxury destination events. She appeared on screen looking concerned. Marlo, Sutton mentioned something urgent about the wedding? I'm canceling. But I don't want to cancel the villa or vendors. I want to repurpose everything. Her eyebrows rose. Repurpose how? I explained. Women's Entrepreneurship Retreat. Nonprofit partnership. Transforming a cancelled wedding into something meaningful. Nicolette was quiet, then something like admiration crossed her face. This is extraordinary. I've coordinated hundreds of weddings, but never had a client transform heartbreak this purposefully. Let me think logistics. She pulled up documents. The villa accommodates 50 comfortably. We have catering for 80 across multiple events. Photographer, activities coordinator, private chef, everything's booked. Can we redirect toward week-long retreat? Workshops during day, networking dinners, mentorship sessions? Absolutely. Easier than a wedding in some ways. No ceremony logistics, no rigid timeline. More flexible schedule focused on connection and learning. Cost beyond what I've paid? Nicolette calculated. To make it truly all expenses paid for, say, 47 women, covering flights from various locations, extending catering, adding workshop facilitators and speakers, I'd estimate additional $60,000 to do properly. My chest tightened. Real money. Saved for my future, business expansion, security. But then I thought about Daniel planning to steal $200,000. About his uncle coaching exploitation. About every woman told she didn't belong. Let's do it. All of it. I want these women to never forget this. Marlo, are you certain? Significant investment. I'm certain. Daniel was going to gamble my money on crypto. At least this goes towards something real. Something that might change lives. Nicolette smiled, genuine. Then let's build something extraordinary. I'll contact Women Building Futures tomorrow morning Athens time. We'll need to move quickly for October. After we hung up, I sat in my office long, looking at Puget Sound. Gray-blue water under overcast skies, ferry boats moving slowly. The view I'd fallen in love with 6 years ago. Daniel had never appreciated this. He'd complain about ferry noise, about island isolation, about driving to Seattle for anything interesting. He'd never understood this house wasn't just property. It was proof. Proof a girl who lost her parents at 9 and was raised in her grandmother's workshop could build something extraordinary. My phone buzzed. Daniel. Hey babe, I think I'm ready to come home and talk. Dinner tomorrow night? I miss you. I stared at that message. The casual, babe. The assumption he could leave 3 days, send guilt trips, then waltz back when ready. Complete lack of acknowledging he'd done anything wrong. I typed, sure. Let's talk tomorrow. Then called Sutton one more time. I'm breaking up with him tomorrow night. But I need everything locked down first. Every password, every code, every piece of evidence. Because the moment I end this, he'll try salvaging what he can. What do you need? Be on standby. I might need somewhere to go if it gets ugly. And Sutton? Thank you for being right. For warning me when I didn't want to hear it. That's what best friends do. We see red flags when you're too close. But Marlo? I'm proud of you. For protecting yourself. For trusting instincts. For turning this nightmare into something beautiful. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed listening to water against shoreline, planning exactly what I'd say when I ended our engagement. Not with emotion. Not with anger. Just cold, clear truth about who he was and what he'd wanted. By Monday morning, I was ready. Monday evening, Daniel arrived at 7 sharp. He brought peonies from the expensive downtown florist. Grand gesture designed to make me feel guilty. I'm sorry about this week, he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I overreacted. We should be able to talk without me storming off. I took the flowers without comment, put them in a vase. Let's sit. We settled at my dining table, the black walnut I'd built. He was nervous, fidgeting with his phone, not quite making eye contact. I've been thinking about what you said, he started. About the financial planner. Maybe that's not a bad idea. We could meet with someone together, get professional advice. I'm open to that. I watched carefully. The performance was good. Reasonable, conciliatory, willing to compromise. This was the Daniel who'd charmed me 18 months ago. That's not necessary anymore, I said calmly. He looked up. What do you mean? I overheard your conversation with Casper Friday night. Everything you said in the living room while I was in the kitchen. Color drained from his face. Marlo. Cabo bachelor party you expect me to pay for. Your uncle's advice about protecting yourself from me being difficult. The cryptocurrency venture fund you were planning to launch with $200,000 from my portfolio. All of it. He stood abruptly. You were eavesdropping? I was in my own kitchen getting wine while you discussed stealing from me. That's not eavesdropping. That's discovering truth. That conversation was out of context. What context makes planning to steal $200,000 acceptable? His face shifted. Panic replaced by something harder. You don't understand. I was going to invest that money and make us both wealthy. It wasn't stealing, it was taking initiative you're too risk-averse to take. Taking initiative requires permission. What you described was theft. This is exactly what I meant. You're so controlling you can't see someone trying to help. You've built this empire and you're terrified of anyone else having power in it. I'm canceling the wedding. I've contacted Nicolette and repurposed the villa. I've changed all passwords and codes. Your house codes stopped working yesterday. I need you to collect your belongings by Wednesday noon. He stared like I'd spoken foreign language. You can't be serious. Completely serious. Marlo, we can work through this. Therapy, counseling, whatever you need. It's not a misunderstanding. You and your uncle planned this. You moved in specifically to position yourself to drain my assets. You studied my banking habits to know when you could steal without detection. That's not relationship. That's fraud. You're insane. Everyone will know you called off our wedding 3 months out over a misheard. I didn't mishear anything. I've documented everything. Every word. Witnesses. Timeline. If you contest this, you'll lose. His face went red. Fine. Keep your precious house and company and money. Die alone with your furniture empire. You'll regret this when you realize no one will ever be good enough for your impossible standards. My impossible standard is not dating someone who plans to rob me. That feels reasonable. He grabbed his jacket. I'll get my stuff tomorrow. And Marlo? Everyone's going to know what kind of person you are. Cold. Controlling. Incapable of partnership. Good luck finding someone willing to put up with that. He slammed the door. The sound echoed, then silence. Complete, perfect silence. I sat at that table long, waiting to feel something. Regret. Second thoughts. Urge to call him back. Nothing came. Just relief. Pure, overwhelming relief that I'd escaped exactly what Grandma Celestine warned me about. Next morning, I woke to 43 missed calls and 58 texts. All from Daniel, sent between midnight and 6 a.m. I scrolled, watching his mental state deteriorate. First, confusion. Are you really doing this? Call me. We need to talk. Then desperation. Marlo, please. I love you. Don't throw away everything. I made a mistake talking to Casper like that, but it didn't mean anything. Just guy talk. Please call. We hadn't built anything together. That was the point. Then bargaining. Forget the asset thing completely. Keep everything separate. I'll sign whatever prenup you want. Just don't cancel the wedding. Around 3 a.m., anger bled through. This is exactly who you are. You build walls and call it success. You're terrified of letting anyone in. You'd rather be alone with money than risk real love. By 5 a.m., rage. Everyone's going to know what you did. How you led me on 18 months, made me think we had a future, then humiliated me 3 months before our wedding. You're going to look like a monster. A cold, calculating corporate monster who cares more about money than people. I turned off my phone, made coffee. Sat at my island watching sunrise over Puget Sound, sky turning pink and gold. The view Daniel never appreciated because he'd never seen this house as anything but an asset to acquire. By Tuesday afternoon, social media campaign had begun. Daniel's Instagram transformed overnight into heartbreak performance. Sometimes you discover true colors when they have to choose between love and control. Choose wisely who you give your heart to. Posted with black and white photo of him looking contemplative on some beach. Probably from a trip I'd paid for. Comments poured in. His friends, people I'd met at parties, Seattle business acquaintances. I always thought something was off about her. Too focused on company, not enough on relationship. You dodged a bullet. Anyone who cancels 3 months out over money doesn't understand marriage. Financial abuse goes both ways. Women can be controlling too. Each post carefully crafted. He was heartbroken fiancé. I was cold corporate executive who'd used and discarded him when he asked for basic partnership. He never mentioned asset transfer ultimatum or crypto scheme. Just vague references to my control issues and inability to share. People I barely knew reached out. Hey Marlo, heard about the wedding. Are you okay? Heard it got messy. From Bainbridge Rotary, disappointed in how you handled your breakup. Daniel seemed so devoted. Even my dry cleaner made awkward small talk. Sorry about your engagement. Sounds complicated. I didn't defend myself. What was I supposed to say? Actually, he was planning to steal $200,000. They wouldn't believe me. Daniel's version was set in their minds. Sutton was furious. You need to tell people what happened. He's destroying your reputation. Let him. People who matter will figure it out. But the whisper campaign spread faster than anticipated. By Wednesday, I'd gotten 2 uncomfortable work conversations from colleagues who'd heard something. That's when Freya Chen, my operations manager, stepped into my office and closed the door. I need to tell you something about Daniel. My stomach dropped. What? 6 months ago, he came to the workshop when you were at that Portland Furniture Expo. Said he was researching a surprise anniversary gift. Asked detailed questions about company valuation, profit margins, your ownership percentage. I thought it was sweet then, but now? Now you realize he was gathering intelligence. Exactly. And Marlo, more. He asked how often you checked investment accounts. Said he was planning a surprise that might affect your portfolio, wanted to make sure you wouldn't notice immediately. I felt cold. What did you tell him? That I had no idea because I don't access your personal finances. But I remember thinking it was weird. What surprise affects someone's portfolio? The kind involving stealing $200,000 for crypto. Freya's eyes went wide. He was planning to steal from you? Planning is past tense. He would have if I'd given access. Freya leaned forward, fierce. You need to know something. I've been hearing things in Seattle business community. Daniel's telling people you financially abused him. Made him completely dependent, then cut him off without warning. Of course he is. But some people aren't buying it. Valencia Park from Northwest Design Collective called yesterday. Wanted to know if rumors about you were true. I told her absolutely not. That you're one of the most ethical business owners I've worked with. That Daniel contributed almost nothing while living rent-free. Thank you. Valencia's spreading the word. She knows your reputation. She said Daniel approached her husband Marco about a year ago asking questions about their business finances. How they structured partnership, who owned what. Marco thought it odd. My chest tightened. He was researching how successful couples structured assets. That's what Valencia thinks. She's warning other women. Telling them what he tried. Over next days, narrative started shifting. People initially sympathetic to Daniel began asking questions. His story fell apart under scrutiny. Most unexpected call came Thursday. Unknown 206 number. Marlo Ashford? This is Sable Winters. I dated Daniel Vance 6 years ago. Can we talk? My heart pounded. Of course. I heard you broke up. That he's telling people you financially abused him. I need you to know that's exactly what he did to me. I sat slowly. What happened? We dated 2 years. I owned a small marketing agency. 8 months in, Daniel started talking about how couples should share everything. How keeping the business solely in my name showed I didn't trust him. How if we were really partners, I'd make him a stakeholder. Horrifyingly familiar. I resisted at first, but he wore me down. Made me feel guilty, selfish, controlling. Finally gave him 15% equity as engagement gift. We got engaged in January 6 years ago. What happened? By March, I caught him trying to sell his shares to a competitor without telling me. He'd negotiated a deal giving them insider access to my client list, pricing, everything. When I confronted him, he said he was exploring options and I was overreacting. Did you end it? Immediately. But getting him off company paperwork took 6 months, cost $40,000 in legal fees. He fought every detail, claimed he deserved more equity for strategic advice. Nearly bankrupted my business. I felt sick. Why tell me this? Because he's doing it again. Patterns identical. Guilt-tripping about trust. Ultimatums disguised as partnership requests. Victim narrative when you protect yourself. I should have warned you earlier, but didn't know he was dating someone new until I heard about the breakup. Sable, would you put this in writing? In case he takes legal action? Absolutely. I'll document everything. And Marlo? I'm sorry you went through this. But I'm glad you got out before he damaged your company like he tried with mine. After we hung up, I sat in my office long, processing. Daniel hadn't just targeted me. This was a pattern. Systematic approach to exploiting successful women by weaponizing their desire for partnership. I called Kendrick immediately, told him about Sable. This changes everything. If he tries suing for anything wedding-related or claims you damaged his reputation, we now have proof of pattern of predatory behavior. This isn't relationship dispute. This is documented pattern of financial exploitation. You think he'll sue? His ego's wounded, he's looking for salvage. So yes, be prepared for threats. But with Sable's testimony and evidence you've gathered, he won't get far. Kendrick was right. By Friday, I received formal letter from Hawthorne and Associates representing Daniel Vance. The letter claimed I'd, maliciously and without cause, terminated our engagement, causing him severe emotional distress and reputational damage. It demanded $95,000 to compensate for lost wedding preparations and damaged professional relationships. I read the letter twice, forwarded it to Kendrick without comment. He called within 10 minutes. This is amateur hour. The attorney clearly doesn't know what they're walking into. What do you mean? They're claiming you caused emotional distress and reputational damage, but provided zero evidence he contributed anything financially. They're threatening breach of promise to marry, which Washington state doesn't even recognize. This is intimidation, nothing more. So what do we do? We respond with overwhelming force. I'm drafting a letter outlining exactly what discovery will reveal if they proceed. Overheard conversation about crypto scheme. Sable's testimony about previous exploitation pattern. Freya's statement about him gathering intelligence. Bank records showing minimal contributions. Proposed countersuit for attempted fraud and coercion. How long? Done by Monday. And Marlo? This letter is good news. It means he's desperate. People with legitimate claims don't resort to threatening letters 3 days after breakup. Monday morning, Kendrick called with update. Response is ready. 10 pages that essentially amounts to, bring it on, and we'll destroy you. Can you read me the conclusion? Should your client proceed with litigation, please be advised Ms. Ashford has documented evidence of Mr. Vance's premeditated scheme to access and misappropriate her assets, including testimony from multiple witnesses regarding his pattern of targeting financially successful women. Discovery will reveal recordings of conversations in which Mr. Vance explicitly discussed plans to drain $200,000 from Ms. Ashford's investment portfolio without her knowledge. We have sworn statements from a previous victim of Mr. Vance's identical exploitation tactics, business associates who can testify to his intelligence-gathering activities, and comprehensive financial records demonstrating his minimal contributions. Ms. Ashford is prepared to file countersuit for attempted fraud, coercion, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Legal fees will be substantial, discovery invasive and thorough, and public nature of proceedings will ensure Mr. Vance's pattern becomes permanent public record. We strongly encourage you to advise your client accordingly. I smiled. Perfect. Sending this afternoon. I'd bet they withdraw within 48 hours. Kendrick was right. By Wednesday, I received terse email from Hawthorne and Associates stating their client had decided not to pursue legal action at this time and considered the matter closed. No apology. No acknowledgement of what Daniel tried. Just quiet retreat from a fight they knew they'd lose. I forwarded to Sutton with one word, done. She replied immediately, champagne tonight. My place. 7 p.m., this deserves celebration. But before celebrating, one more thing needed to happen. Thursday afternoon, I drove to Bainbridge and stood in Grandma Celestine's workshop. Kept exactly as she'd left it 3 years ago. I pulled out phone, opened voice recorder. Grandma Celestine, I wish you were here. I wish I could tell you in person. But I want you to know I finally understand what you were teaching me. About protecting what you build. About recognizing when someone wants to take rather than create. My voice cracked. I met someone. Daniel. He was exactly what you warned about. He saw what I'd built and mistook it for opportunity. But I heard him planning to steal, and I remembered everything you taught. I protected myself. Walked away from someone who wanted to possess what I'd built rather than build something new. Tears came, relief tears, freedom tears. I took the money he wanted to steal and turned it into something good. Retreat for women like us. Women who need to know they're not alone. That success isn't selfish. That protecting yourself isn't cold. I looked around workshop at her tools, her legacy. Thank you for teaching me to protect what I build. Thank you for showing me boundaries aren't walls. This retreat will outlast me. These women will remember and teach others. I turned off recorder. When I walked out of that workshop, I felt something I hadn't felt in 18 months. Completely, entirely free. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in months. I didn't think about Daniel at all. Instead, I focused on Santorini. Nicolette had connected me with Indira Malhotra, founder of Women Building Futures. Saturday morning video call, Indira appeared on screen with complete disbelief. When Nicolette contacted me, I thought this was elaborate prank. No one repurposes their cancelled wedding into entrepreneur retreat. I want to do something good with what was supposed to be terrible. Your organization helps women in male-dominated industries. I built furniture company in industry that didn't think women belonged. This feels right. For the next hour, we planned workshop sessions on protecting IP and assets. Panel discussions about recognizing financial manipulation. Mentorship circles. Evening networking dinners overlooking Aegean. Nicolette said the villa could handle 47 women comfortably. Perfect. Make it happen. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt since before Daniel. Purpose that had nothing to do with proving myself or building wealth. Just simple satisfaction of using resources to help other women avoid what I'd almost walked into. October arrived faster than expected. I flew to Santorini 3 days before retreat started. Villa was even more beautiful than photos. Perched on OIA cliffs, whitewashed buildings with blue domes, infinity pools overlooking Caldera. Aegean Sea impossibly blue under Greek sun. Night before women arrived, I stood on terrace watching sunset. Sky turned pink and gold and purple. This view would have been backdrop for my wedding to Daniel. Instead, it would backdrop 47 women learning to protect themselves and recognize their worth. Women started arriving next morning. Marin, general contractor from Montana, stopped mid-courtyard staring at the view. I'd been working construction 15 years. Never stayed anywhere like this. That was exactly the point. We gathered on main terrace for opening session. Indira stood at front, Aegean stretching behind her. This retreat exists because Marlo Ashford made a choice. When her engagement ended after discovering her fiancé planned to exploit her financially, she transformed her pain into your opportunity. When Indira finished, Saskia, who owned automotive repair shop in Vancouver, stood. I want to thank Marlo directly. 3 years ago, my business partner tried pushing me out of the company I'd founded. Being here, knowing someone chose to fight differently, to transform instead of just survive, it means everything. Other women nodded, sharing brief versions of their own stories. That evening, first dinner together. Long tables on terrace, Greek food, wine flowing. As night went on, conversations deepened. Women sharing real stories. Manipulation they'd faced. Moments they'd almost given up. On third day, we did exercise Indira designed. Each woman wrote down the moment she'd almost given up, then we burned them in fire pit on beach at sunset. When my turn came, I held my paper and looked at 47 faces in firelight. The day Daniel told me protecting my assets meant I was incapable of real love. That my boundaries were walls. That I'd die alone because no one would ever be good enough. I threw it into fire. He was right, I'd stay alone. But wrong about why. I'd stay alone before I'd let someone make me feel guilty for protecting what I built. Women erupted. Yes. Exactly. That's it. By end of week, at least a dozen women had decided to end current relationships, finally seeing red flags clearly. Final evening, closing ceremony. Indira turned to me. Marlo, would you like to say anything? I stood, looking at these 47 faces. A year ago, I thought success meant having everything I'd built plus someone to share it with. But this week taught me different. Being alone isn't failure. Being with someone who wants to dismantle what you've built, that's failure. And being surrounded by women who understand your journey, that's not being alone at all. Women stood and applauded. Some crying. Even Rowan had tears. That night, alone on beach under full moon, I pulled out voice recorder one last time. Grandma Celestine, retreat is ending tomorrow. 47 women came here this week. Women who needed to know they weren't alone. I used Daniel's manipulation against him. Turned his wedding into something that matters. Thank you for teaching me to protect what I build. I sat on that beach until sunrise. Same colors that would have been backdrop for wedding photos. Same beauty that would have been wasted on Daniel's performance. Instead, it marked the end of something real. Something that would ripple forward long after this week ended. Back in Seattle, life resumed its rhythm, but I was different. The house felt like home in a way it hadn't even before Daniel. Ashford and Company was thriving. We landed major hotel contract, hired 3 new craftspeople. But the biggest change was internal. I'd stopped apologizing for my success. Stopped feeling guilty for having boundaries. 3 months after Santorini, I got email from woman named Calla Morrison. Subject: thank you for saving my life. I read the article about you 6 months ago. At the time, I was engaged to man pressuring me to add his name to my restaurant's business license and condo title. When I hesitated, he made me feel selfish. Reading your story made me realize what was happening. I ended the engagement, protected my assets. Last week, I opened my second restaurant location. I wanted you to know your willingness to share your story changed my life. I forwarded it to Sable with subject line, "Why we tell our stories." Sable replied, "This is everything. One woman saved is worth all of it." 6 months after Santorini, Rowan Castellanos called. Marlo, I'm starting foundation focused on helping women entrepreneurs protect themselves from financial manipulation. Legal resources, educational programs, support networks. I want you on founding board. I thought about Grandma Celestine. About legacy of protection and wisdom she'd left me. Yes. I'll do it. 6 weeks before second annual retreat, journalist Octavia Reeves called. I'm writing feature about women entrepreneurs who've overcome financial manipulation in relationships. Your name came up connected to Daniel Vance. I've already interviewed Sable Winters and Lennox Hartwell, who owns software company. Daniel systematically pressured her to transfer assets. She eventually ended it, but not before significant financial damage. 3 women. At least 3 we knew about. I called Sable first. I'm so glad you're doing this. If our stories can help even one woman recognize the pattern earlier, it's worth it. The interview took place at my workshop. I told Octavia everything. What made you realize you had to leave? Hearing him talk about me like I was a resource to exploit rather than a person to love. He wasn't planning a life with me. He was planning a heist with a ceremony attached. The article published 3 weeks later. Headline: The Pattern, How Successful Seattle Women Are Fighting Back Against Financial Manipulation. Response was immediate. Women started reaching out. Dozens, then hundreds. One message stood out. From Zephyr Hale in Portland. I'm currently dating Daniel Vance. Been with him 2 months. He just started talking about how keeping my inheritance separate shows I don't trust him. I found your article Googling his name after something felt off. Thank you for potentially saving me from terrible mistake. I called her immediately. We talked for an hour. She ended it that day. After we hung up, I forwarded Zephyr's message to Octavia and Sable. Subject: It's working. A year after canceling the wedding, I woke on random Tuesday and realized something had shifted. I made coffee, looking out at Puget Sound through windows I'd chosen. Morning light hit hardwood floors exactly right. I hadn't thought about Daniel in weeks. Not with anger or regret. He'd simply become irrelevant. I looked around my house. Every piece of furniture I'd chosen. Every bit of art I'd bought. The minimalist aesthetic that was mine. The office where I worked on projects I cared about. My Porsche in garage, paid off. Savings account past 6 figures again. Career exactly where I wanted it. Most importantly, I'd learned to trust my instincts again. To hear warning bells and actually listen. To recognize manipulation before it took root. To understand that protecting what I'd built wasn't selfish, it was essential. That morning, drinking coffee in my peaceful home, I finally understood what Grandma Celestine had tried to teach me. Wealth isn't just about money. It's about dignity, boundaries, self-respect. The wisdom to recognize when someone wants to take rather than build. The courage to walk away from people who see you as opportunity instead of partner. I'd kept all of that. Protected all of that. Built a life that was entirely mine. Real revenge wasn't about destruction or humiliation. Real revenge was refusing to be the victim someone had planned for me to be. It was protecting what I'd built and moving forward without carrying manipulation as baggage. It was sitting in my own home, drinking my own coffee, living my own life, completely free. That was the sweetest revenge of all. 18 months after the breakup, I got email that stopped me cold. Subject: You should know this about Daniel Vance. Sender: Thaddeus Brennan. Ms. Ashford. I'm writing because you deserve to know something. I was wrong. I taught Daniel to see successful women as opportunities. I taught him to protect himself from potential difficulty by securing assets early. I taught him strategy that was actually manipulation. I taught him this because of bitterness from my own divorce. But watching what Daniel became, watching him target woman after woman, watching the pain he's caused. I understand now that my bitterness created predator. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm simply telling you that you were right. What I taught him wasn't protection. It was theft. He's in therapy now. Court mandated after Portland woman got restraining order. I don't know if he'll change. But I'm changing. You turned his attempt to exploit you into movement protecting others. That's remarkable. Thaddeus Brennan. Part of me was angry it took 7 victims and court order for consequences. But part of me was satisfied the pattern had been so thoroughly exposed that even its creator admitted fault. I forwarded to Rowan: Progress, I guess? She replied, small progress is still progress. Court-mandated therapy means he's on record now. That afternoon, I drove to Bainbridge and stood in Grandma Celestine's workshop one final time. Kept exactly as she'd left it 3 years ago. I picked up the black walnut dining table I'd been working on for months. It was complete now, smooth surface showing beautiful grain, sturdy legs, proportions exactly right. This table would go in my dining room. Would host dinners with friends, with foundation board, with Women Building Futures members visiting Seattle. A daily reminder that I'd protected what mattered and built something new. I ran my hand across the surface one last time in the workshop, feeling the wood smooth under my fingers. We did it, Grandma, I whispered. We built things that last. 3 years after Daniel's ultimatum, I stood in Santorini again. 4th annual retreat, 75 women, waiting list of 400 plus. Opening session on that terrace overlooking Aegean. I'd stood here 4 times now, 4 years of women gathering, sharing, healing, growing. But this year felt different. This year, we had women returning. Marin came back as mentor. Saskia brought delegation from her automotive group. Paloma was keynote speaker about building metal fabrication empire after leaving manipulative relationship. 4 years ago, this villa was supposed to host my wedding. Instead, it hosted 47 women who needed to know they weren't alone. Those 47 women became 400 plus. The movement keeps growing. I looked around at faces, some familiar, most new. That's how this works. One woman learns, she teaches others. Those women teach more. The resistance becomes exponential. You're not just here to heal. You're here to become part of network protecting next generation. The foundation had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We'd helped 127 women protect themselves from financial manipulation. Created legal resources, educational programs, support networks in multiple cities. Azure Lee's book had published, The Pattern, How Successful Women Are Fighting Back. My chapter was titled, From Wedding to Retreat, Transforming Pain into Purpose. Book tour brought women lining up to share their stories. In Los Angeles, woman approached crying. I was engaged to Daniel Vance 5 years ago. I gave him 20% of my PR firm. It took 3 years and $100,000 in legal fees to get him out. Reading your story made me realize I wasn't alone. Thank you. 4 women now. At least 4 we knew about. One quiet afternoon before this retreat, I got call from Detective Ramos, Seattle PD. Ms. Ashford, I'm investigating financial fraud case. Man running schemes similar to what you experienced. When we interviewed victims, several mentioned your story and foundation. Would you be willing to consult? Of course. Whatever I can do to help. The patterns are remarkably similar. We think there may be network of men sharing these tactics, coaching each other. After hanging up, I felt strange mixture of emotions. Anger that pattern was widespread. Satisfaction that law enforcement was finally taking it seriously. Determination to help stop it. That evening in Santorini, final night of retreat, we did tradition that had emerged. Each woman wrote note to future self, reminder of strength found, boundaries established, lessons learned. When my turn came, I wrote. Dear future Marlo. Remember when you thought success without partnership was failure? You were wrong. You built community that matters more than any individual relationship. Remember when you felt guilty for protecting what you built? That guilt was manipulation, not truth. Remember when you thought you'd die alone? You were never alone. You turned your worst moment into your greatest contribution. That's not just resilience. That's transformation. Keep building. Keep protecting. Keep helping others do the same. I looked out at Aegean one last time that trip. The same water, the same cliffs, the same sunset that would have been wasted on Daniel's performance wedding. Instead, it had become backdrop for something real. Something that mattered. Something that would continue long after I was gone. Somewhere, Daniel was probably running same scheme on someone new. But here in Santorini, 75 women had learned to recognize it. They'd go home and teach others. Pattern would spread, but so would resistance. That felt like justice. Not dramatic kind, but kind that actually mattered. Kind that prevented future victims instead of just punishing past offenders. I'd started with canceled wedding and $95,000 in lost deposits. I'd built movement that had helped hundreds of women protect themselves. I'd turned Daniel Vance's attempt to steal from me into network that made his tactics impossible. And I'd done it all while protecting exactly what my grandmother had taught me to protect: my work, my worth, my boundaries, my freedom. Real revenge wasn't about what I'd taken from him. It was about what I'd refused to let him take from me. And then building something beautiful with what remained. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.